I believe that we as a nation or as human beings, we don't talk about the hardest things in life. We always brush stuff under the carpets, and then because we brush stuff under the carpets, those subjects get stigmatized. So, you know, we don't talk about addiction, we don't talk about alcoholism, we don't talk about suicide, you know, mental health, and all these different homelessness, terminal illnesses, HIV, you know. Oh shit, I've had all that. So do you know what I mean?
Wait,
I might as well talk about it.
yeah, it's funny in a way that, you know, there's been a great effort in recent years to break the stigma on mental health, which is great, obviously. But then the stigma still exists for everyone else. And there's like other ones, like, for example, like the HIV one, people are still like, whoa, no, not
Yeah,
right.
yeah, totally.
It's like, but we've just tried to do that for something else. Like, it's so similar in that way. And like, who does it take, or what campaign does it take until people start going, oh, okay, we'll start to talk about that now?
I think it's when some sort of big name celebrity, and I know it happened with Freddie Mercury and people like Kenny Everett, and the names are, there's so many names out there of people who died from HIV, especially in the art world. You know, people like David Wojnarowicz, who was an amazing activist. He was after he died, his ashes got dumped onto the White House lawn, you know, as protest for Ronald Reagan and how they decimated their treatment for people with HIV in America. So, you know, I think the problem is over the years, leaders around the world, like, you know, have always like jumped on the fear element to be able to get messages across. So, you know, when something like, prime example with COVID, like, you know, now you've got huge amounts of Chinese being stigmatized, racist attacks on them, beaten in the streets, you know, and because COVID-19 is being blamed on a certain minority. Okay, it's a minority in our country, but not there, and that's wrong. You know, viruses just start. It just happens. You know, it's called evolution, and then the same with like HIV. You know, there was no, you know, it wasn't, as it was called, the gay disease for a very long time, as we know. So then gay people were then stigmatized, etc., etc. We all know the history about it, but the problem is we then had leaders who actually perpetuated, you know, people like Maggie Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, perpetuated the problem. So then suddenly, you know, you had advertising campaigns with giant tombstones demonizing people for something which was out of their control. You know, people say, well, you know, it's your own fault that you got it. Yeah, I had sex. What's so fucking wrong with that?
No one wanted to get it. Like no one.
No, exactly, right. And most people have sex, right? And the thing that I had shouted at me so many times about this was like, well, you should have wore protection. And I go, so you're telling me that you've never had sex with protection? And it was a person who had children like telling me this, and I went, so you're telling me that you've never had unprotected sex? And he's like, yes. And I went, so how have you got children? So to make children, you've got to have unprotected sex, right? So just because I'm gay and I have unprotected sex with somebody doesn't mean that I deserve to be diagnosed with HIV. It wasn't my fault. It just, as an accident, it's one of those things. The person who I was having sex with didn't know that they had it either. You know, so and this is the thing. You know, I don't officially know who I got it from because the people who I've slept with didn't know that they had it or don't know that they have it. So and the bigger percentage of people being diagnosed with HIV are heterosexual. You know, so so this whole sort of like thing, but this was all perpetuated by our governments in the time, and it still is. Sadly, there's more and more cuts in HIV treatment and awareness, you know, and sadly there is going to be an increase. Hopefully not now that we've got PrEP, and that can help. But yeah, I could go on forever talking about HIV.
I know very, very little amount about HIV. Like personally, you know, being heterosexual, it's never been forced into my narrative. Like we're saying, like it's always been a gay thing. And I remember I watched Straight Out of Compton the other day actually, and Easy contracted HIV, and there's that scene, it's show him in his hospital bed, and he is like, that's impossible. You know, it was almost like heterosexual people were like, I cannot.
Immune to it.
Yeah.
Immune. Yeah, exactly. And I think this is the thing. I met this young girl. Well, I say young girl, she's probably about my age now, but she was married, she had children, and she'd been ill for about 15 years, right? And they didn't know what it was, right? And she had test after test, they thought she had cancer and all this sort of stuff, right? And it actually turned out she was HIV positive, right? And she was like, but that's impossible, right? And she'd got it. She'd had it for like nearly 20 years by this stage, right? Without even knowing, because they never thought, oh, well, you're a woman, you're not going to have it, like, you know, in a heterosexual like relationship. But she did, and she was devastated. She couldn't believe it. She then got demonized because of it. Luckily, her marriage didn't break up, and that was great. But do you know what I mean? Because they don't, you know, heterosexuals. It doesn't go through doctors' things. Oh, well, you're straight. You don't have to worry, like, you know. But you do. Do you know what I mean?
All the things, like, why it seems to be so common that something will happen to a person that is so devastating to the person personally, and then they get attacked by everything else. Like, I mean, the one I always think about is celebrities that obviously fuck up. Like, if you're a celebrity, you're a human being. You're obviously get stuff wrong, and as soon as you get something wrong, every newspaper, everyone is after you, and it's so like stupid that our society will then attack someone who's
totally. Prime example, Caroline Flack. You know, she was demonized. Like it was so obvious that the girl was having mental health problems. It was obvious, like you know, in just in her persona and the way she was, like, you know. And you don't then demonize people for it, because then what happens ultimately? They try killing themselves. You know, I was demonized quite a lot. I had huge amounts of stigma thrown at me for stuff that happened in my past, and for being, you know, I suppose I stigmatized myself more for HIV, but the gay community are vile, and there are people out there in the community who know that this is something that we've been demonized for as a community, but they're willing to then demonize the people with HIV in their own community, and I find that absolutely disgusting, and they do it blatantly, and it's vile the way they are. So you have all this, and you know, and ultimately, you know, that does affect your mental health, your well-being, and then if you've then got other things going on in your life, like I had with my alcohol problem, you know, losing my partner, losing my house, you know, having a stroke, etc., 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 and then obviously becoming homeless. There's only so long that you can keep going for until something completely snaps. And obviously mine was trying to kill myself several times. And then you then get stigmatized for that as well. And it's just like, fucking hell, man, give me a break, will you? You know, I obviously tried killing myself and came back to my flat to find out that I'd been made homeless, you know, literally coming back from the hospital. And I was like, what's going on? So, you know, I think, yeah, we have we do have a really compassionate country, and we do, but my God, we are fucking evil as well. We will jump on people just because it makes us feel better that someone else's life is shitter than ours. So we'll go, oh yeah, you know, and then people get evil, like, you know, like they did with Caroline Flack. She got so much vile abuse, even though the girl was having problems, and people still were like, oh, wish you were dead, wish you were dead. Well, they got their wish, didn't they?